I never thought I would tell this story, never imagined I would become the kind of woman who did the things I did. But there are moments in life that make you realize you don't fully understand yourself, that sometimes you don't know what you truly crave until someone awakens it. That was how I found myself in that moment, trembling, heart pounding, with a man who wasn't my husband. My breath came in gasps because he was bigger and longer than my husband, but somehow I liked that feeling. But before that happened, let me take you back to where it all began, when my marriage was still a perfect picture, though missing a piece I didn't dare admit. Lucas, my husband, was a wonderful man. He was kind, thoughtful, and incredibly patient. He wasn't just a husband, but a companion, a solid rock through all the storms. Together we built a quiet little home, filled with laughter during evening cookouts, candlelight on anniversaries, and peaceful silences when we sat together without needing to say a word. To everyone around us, we were the ideal model of marriage. Lucas was always accommodating, always caring about the smallest details, like the morning cup of coffee waiting on the table, or the blanket he'd pull over me in the middle of the night. I loved him, and for many years, I believed that was enough. But like an unspoken rule, when everything seems too perfect, you start to notice the little cracks. We still loved each other, but that love became tired. The kisses were rushed. The touches no longer made my heart flutter. Every intimate gesture felt like a habit to be completed rather than a desire to be shared. I felt the emptiness, but I tried to ignore it. Every marriage goes through phases like this, right? That's what I told myself. I stayed silent and continued living with a sense of lack I didn't dare name. Then Jack appeared. He was Lucas's new colleague, a tall man with sharp eyes and a smile you couldn't ignore. The first time I met Jack, I felt something unfamiliar, like an electric current running down my spine. He shook my hand, looked into my eyes longer than necessary, and smiled in a way that made me feel special. At first, I told myself I was just affected by a passing charm. But then, our encounters grew more frequent. At company parties, casual visits to Lucas's office, or even just when he passed along a message for Lucas. Each time, Jack left a mark, a look, a gentle touch on my hand, a sentence full of implication. I began to look forward to those moments, even if they lasted only seconds. I found myself changing. My heart beat faster, my breath shallower whenever I stood near him. I knew it was wrong. I knew I was playing with fire. But I didn't stop. A part of me had awakened from a long sleep, the woman who wanted to be desired, to be longed for, to feel alive instead of just safe. And then came that night, the night Lucas left on a 3-day business trip. I was home alone, holding a glass of red wine, thinking about Jack's eyes the other day, when he softly asked, "Are you okay?" As if he truly saw me, not the perfect wife or model homemaker, but a woman slowly losing herself. That night, everything changed. That night, when Lucas was away on a business trip, the house became eerily silent. Every familiar sound, the hum of the air conditioner, the ticking of the clock, even the faint wind tapping on the window, seemed amplified, blending with the chaos inside me. I sat on the sofa, a glass of red wine in hand, staring at my phone as if it held the key to a part of myself I was trying to suppress. Then the screen lit up, "Drink tonight?" From Jack. Just 3 simple words. But I knew it wasn't just an invitation for a drink. I knew it carried a tempting proposition, that if I replied, I would be stepping across the thin line between desire and betrayal. My hand trembled as I typed, "Okay," then hit send. A small action, but I knew from that moment, nothing would be the same again. Less than an hour later, Jack stood at my doorstep. He didn't say a word when I opened the door. His eyes burned like fire, intense, demanding, and determined. He stepped inside, closed the door with a gentle push, then pulled me close to him. His lips met mine without hesitation. It was a kiss of possession, so fierce it took my breath away, unlike anything I had ever felt from Lucas. I was no longer a woman of morals. No longer the faithful wife in that moment. I became someone else, instinctive, impulsive, and completely surrendered. All the emotions I had suppressed for years burst out like a dam breaking. My body responded to him instinctively, as if it had been waiting to be released, to come alive again. When we moved to the bedroom, I was trembling, not just from nerves but from craving. Jack's body was completely different from Lucas's. Taller, stronger, and filled with a raw energy I never knew I needed so badly. There was a moment I almost wanted to stop. "Jack, slow down," I whispered, voice shaky. He leaned down, whispering in my ear, "I'll be gentle. I promise." And true to his word, every movement was slow, deliberate, as if he understood every reaction from me, every smallest tremble. I was swept away by emotion, drowned in a wave of desire I had never known. When Jack wrapped around me, each of his movements came like crashing waves, powerful yet controlled. I felt my body being filled, not just physically but in the deepest emotional sense. Every time he pushed deeper, I moaned softly, my fingers clutching his shoulders as if afraid the sensation would disappear. I was lost in the intoxication, every emptiness that had kept me awake for years finally filled. In that moment, no one else existed, only Jack, and I belonged entirely to him. When it was over, I lay beside him, my skin still tingling, my heart still racing. But instead of guilt, the first thing I felt was satisfaction. No one had ever touched me like that. No one had ever made me feel so wanted, so desired. Jack gently stroked my thigh, smiling. "You okay?" I laughed, voice trembling. "I'm not sure I can walk." He laughed out loud, a smug grin I couldn't bring myself to hate. When he left, leaving me alone in the dark room, I knew one thing for certain. I wanted it to happen again. Not just for the physical sensation, but because I felt alive, because I was a part of myself I had buried for too long. The days that followed were filled with relentless turmoil. I still lived with Lucas, the gentle man, the husband I always loved. But I couldn't escape the memories of Jack. Every time Lucas touched me, I remembered Jack's firm hands. Every soft kiss from my husband made me crave a different kind of fire. I began to compare. Every movement, every breath, every smallest sound. I felt myself breaking. I knew I had betrayed. And worse, I wasn't sure I regretted it. I tried to convince myself it was just a mistake, that it meant nothing deep. But every night, when Lucas slept soundly beside me, his breath steady, my mind quietly drifted back to Jack, to that look in his eyes, to the way he whispered my name like it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever known. And in those moments, I asked myself, am I the one losing myself, or have I finally found who I truly am? Time passed, and the memories of Jack no longer burned as brightly as in the beginning, but they never truly disappeared. They became silent scars buried somewhere in my mind, like a healed wound that still aches when the weather turns. I still lived with Lucas, still played the role of the ideal wife everyone trusted. Still smiled at him every morning and lay beside him every night. But there were moments when I felt like a ghost, existing without truly living. I never confessed to Lucas about Jack. Not because I wanted to deceive him, but because I knew the truth would destroy him, the only man who had ever always put me first. And yet, that very love, that sincerity, made the pain all the more unbearable. I felt guilty not only for what I had done, but for what I had taken from him, a complete trust, even if he never knew it was gone. I began to feel I could no longer live in that silent lie. Not by confessing, but by changing, by trying to bring back the vitality, the intensity I had once felt, but this time with Lucas. I didn't want to run from that feeling anymore. I wanted to live honestly, but without losing the best man in my life. One late night, after a few glasses of wine to calm my fear, I sat next to Lucas. The warm yellow light gently cast on his face, a face I had loved for so many years. I softly stroked his chest and whispered, "Love, I think we should try some things to make our sex life better." Lucas stopped watching TV and turned to look at me. His gaze darkened. "You're not happy?" I rushed to say, "I am happy, truly. But don't you want it to be even better?" His jaw tightened. "You mean I'm not enough?" I felt a sharp pain in my chest. "That's not it. I love you. It's just, sometimes there are ways to improve things. Not to change you, but to rediscover each other." He was silent for a long time. So long that I thought I had just killed something fragile between us. The following weeks were gloomy. He barely spoke, and I was afraid, unsure if I had done right or wrong. Then one night, as I was about to drift off to sleep, Lucas walked into the room and sat by the bed. "I did some research," he said softly, "about the things you mentioned. Ways to improve. Not just techniques, but myself too." I sat up, unable to believe it. "Lucas, you don't have to." He interrupted. "I want to. If it makes you happy, then I'll do it." Tears welled up in my eyes. I didn't deserve him, but I also knew, if there was ever a chance to make things right, it was now. We started over, with openness, honesty, and courage. Therapy sessions. Awkward but earnest experimental nights. Lucas learned to adjust, to explore, and to take command of his body in ways he had never considered before. He wasn't just trying for me, he began to do it for himself. And then, one night, after all the hesitations and struggles, we truly connected. Lucas entered me with a newfound confidence. With an energy that left me nearly breathless. I arched toward him, my fingernails digging into his back. "Slow down," I gasped. He leaned in, whispering with a sly smile in my ear. "You wanted this, now deal with it." Each of his movements was a wave crashing over me, pushing me to the edge of feeling. For the first time in years, I didn't need to close my eyes and imagine someone else. I didn't compare. I only saw Lucas, my man, and I loved him more than ever. When everything calmed, he lay beside me, his fingers tracing soft circles on my belly. "How was that?" he asked, a mischievous smile spreading across his face. I didn't answer. I just pulled him close, kissed him deeply. I didn't think of Jack. I didn't compare. Lucas was everything I needed, and I knew I would never want anyone else again. And for the first time in a very long time, I knew I had truly come home.